This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Good morning, Sam. How you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Doing just fine. For those of you that are looking for Grant has got an interesting schedule this week. He will only be on the show Tuesday and Thursday due to some previous life commitments. So just so you guys are aware, if you're looking for Grant Coppersmith, you got to check him out on Tuesday and Thursday, which you can get us, though, right here Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. Good morning to all of you watching on Periscope. Great to see all of you. So Sam Wallace has officially stepped into the co-hosting chair today, or sat down in, or I don't know how one can step into a chair, but Sam has...
I'm sitting. That's okay. I'm not going to stand
You sat
for now.
into a chair?
It's too early to stand.
It's true. It's too early to stand. Did you go for a run this morning,
I
Sam?
did not.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow morning.
Got to find the schedule.
I know.
All right. Well, good morning to all of you. We're excited to have you here on another edition of the Bax and Grant Sports Show. We've got a lot of great things to talk about. It is another exciting week of NFL action, and there are so many different things to talk about. There were overtime games. There were upsets. There were maybe victories for your team, maybe losses for your team, maybe your star running back tore his ACL.
Don't want to talk about it.
Sorry, Jamal. There's so many different things to talk about. And as we talk about those things, we'd like to remind you as well that you can also find us on Twitter and on Facebook as well at the Bax and Grant Sports Show. You can also get us on Twitter at BG Sports Show. You can follow myself at Baxter Colburn. Sam, what are you, Sam? I always forget yours.
Samuel_Wallace2.
Samuel_Wallace2. And then Grant is at Grant's Rant BGSS as well. We've got a big show today, like we mentioned. Lots of NFL to speak about. We'll be looking a little bit more in depth on how the Green Bay Packers did. We'll be talking about our buy and sell on the NFL undefeated teams. Connor Christensen will be here a little bit later to talk about his fitness tip, and we'll be reviewing the USA-Mexico game as well that took place on Saturday night. If you are a Mexican fan, you are probably very, very happy with how your team did. If you're a USA fan, you probably want Jurgen Klinsmann just put on a remote island with nothing to survive on and hope that he doesn't find his way back. No, hopefully not. But anyway.
Is that how people feel?
Some people are just not happy.
Really? I follow soccer very, very loosely, and I saw the outcome of the game, but when I had heard, that Jurgen's head was on the chopping block, I was like, oh, ouch.
Yeah,
ouch.
The situation with Jurgen Klinsmann is such a hot mess, honestly, that it's hard to really know how serious people really are, if they actually want a new coach or not.
Yeah.
So,
well, all right.
Either way, we'll talk about it a little bit later on in the show.
We'll get to it.
So, Sam, 3 overtime games. I don't know if you want to even call it an upset with the Bears beating the Chiefs, but let's take a look at what happened in Week 5 around the NFL. We talked about the Thursday night game last week. The Colts took out the Texans 27-20. Matt Hasselbeck doing a great job, proving that age is just a number.
Yeah, no kidding.
And he's aging like a fine wine and doing a fantastic job with that.
Being the oldest team in the NFL, so they're doing a great job stepping up, which is nice to see. So.
They are, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Colts trying to stay relevant. They're 3-2 right now. Texans dropped to 1-4 in this divisional game. Mm-hmm. So I just briefly mentioned it. The Bears and the Chiefs. The talking point, obviously, sure, the Bears won. Okay, so if you're a Bears fan, woo, good for you.
Great for you guys.
But the big thing is, if you were a Chiefs fan, that Jamal Charles tore his ACL, wasn't even touched, just was going on a routine, juke and cut up the field, and he went one way and his knee went the other. And let's just say it was not for the viewing pleasure of the audience. I saw the replay once, and I had to change the channel. I was like, no, can't.
I've seen that before. And it goes back a few years. He had torn his other ACL. I think it was the season of 2011, and he missed a good chunk of that season. I think he only played 2 games that year. But for it to happen to his right leg now potentially, I wasn't watching the game live, but obviously Jamal was my top running back for my fantasy league in our Bax and Grant Sports Show Legends League.
Woo!
But I got an update on my phone. It was, Jamal Charles leaves game with non-contact injury to right knee, and the first thought I had was, oh no. If it's non-contact, it's almost guaranteed what that's going to be.
Yeah,
so,
that's kind of like what Jordy's injury was too. It was non-contact, routine,
just a total fluke. And you know what? It can happen.
It does.
You can't plan for that. There's really nobody's at fault. Unfortunately, it's just the Chiefs got to try to rally themselves together now.
Circle the wagons.
As soon as Jamal left the game, you could tell too. Their offense just died.
Yeah, they lost to the Bears, which proves that their offense
in Kansas City,
the little bit of offense they do have, does circle around Jamal. And that asks a good question in terms of, is Andy Reid's days in Kansas City numbered now? Teams 1-4.
You know what? I think they would almost have to be at this point. They went from having one of the I want to say best defenses, but a very legitimate defensive
Mm-hmm.
team. I think last year they only gave up about 18 points a game, and coming into playing the Bears, they were averaging like 31 points a game. And
Yeah.
again, not they played the Packers, again, a little bit of bias there, but Aaron Rodgers just tore them apart and things like that. But even in the Packer game like that, Jamal Charles still scored 3 touchdowns on the ground. So like you said, what offense they do have really, really revolves around Jamal. He averages between 100 and 150 plus all-purpose yards from scrimmage, and it's been nice to see Jeremy Maclin finally step up a little bit and give Alex Smith a viable target downfield on the receiving end. But without Jamal, I mean, defense now, it's going to be interesting to see who the Chiefs decide to play at their running back position.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to know what happens. Niall Davis was one name that was brought up. There's been a few other guys that have also been tossed around too. So if you're a Chiefs fan, good luck with the rest of your season on that one, especially if Jamal is officially out for the rest of the season. One of the overtime games we saw yesterday was Cincinnati and Seattle. The Seahawks thought they had a victory down in Cincinnati, but Andy Dalton, the never say never ginger man there, showing up
straight out of TCU,
did a great job and helped the team win the game 27-24. Mike Nugent, the game-winning field goal. Well done, Mike. I've always been a big fan of Mike Nugent, but it was Tyler Eifert, though, with 8 catches for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns that really stole the show for the Bengals offense.
I really, really think, I mean, there's an article that was on ESPN that said, a previous Bengals team would have folded being down 17 points late in the game. But I really am impressed with Andy Dalton's leadership thus far, and how maybe a younger Andy Dalton, maybe a little more, green Andy Dalton, as far as the NFL is concerned, may not have been able to rally his team against the Legion of Boom and their quite frankly awesome defense that they've had. But he was able to march right down when he needed to and get the job done. So I'm definitely sold on Andy Dalton being on top of his game right now.
Absolutely, yeah. The Bengals scored 17 fourth quarter points, and obviously those 3 to win the game in the fourth quarter as well. So being down 24-7 in the fourth quarter, I think a lot of folks said, "All right, Seattle's going to win the game. Cincinnati's not as real as we thought they were." And Cincinnati at least caused an argument now for just kind of how good they might be.
Can't argue with 5-0.
No, it's very hard. Another 5-0 team was Atlanta and Washington. Another game where I was like, well, this might be another upset, as we saw the Washington Redskins just dominate the game for most of it. And I was confused because Matt Ryan was throwing interceptions and just Julio Jones wasn't doing very well.
I mean, Matt Ryan failed to throw a touchdown yesterday, which was extremely odd.
Yeah, I mean, Julio Jones technically got a touchdown yesterday, but it was a fumble recovery for a touchdown. I never understood how that works for fantasy. How does he get 6 points for that?
I think he got the points for it. I'll have to go back and look because, well, I can at least speak for my own part, but I was playing Devontae Freeman yesterday, and I was watching some live updates, and I saw him go in for the score, but then it said, Devontae Freeman, 2-yard rush, fumble in the end zone, picked up, touchdown. I was like, wait, what? And then initially I had the points. And then about 5 minutes later, who the powers that be that divvy out the fantasy football points, the fantasy gods that decide who gets what points, took the points away and just gave me the yardage. But so
interesting. Yeah, because I'm looking at Julio Jones's fantasy. He has 5 catches for 67 yards. They ended up giving him a total of 12 points, but there was no record of him having a touchdown.
That must have been the touchdown then, because
so maybe they added the touchdown in as something else.
I don't know.
Because something like that, I'm sure, doesn't happen often, but they have to have some sort of a procedure in place just in case.
Yeah, it's curious, I don't know. What if one of your offensive linemen picks it up and scores it? Like, do the points, are they just nullified? Does nobody get those points then? So
I'm not sure how that works.
Huh.
Yeah. All right, well, Atlanta with a 25-19 victory. They stay at 5-0. Looking down in Florida, the battle of 2 teams that nobody cared about, but unless you're a diehard Buccaneers or Jaguars fan, Blake Bortles threw 4 touchdowns yesterday. If anybody was smart enough to start him in any of their daily fantasy leagues or even stream him. Yeah, they still lost, though.
I got a feel for the guy. I really do.
I think Blake Bortles would be a good quarterback on a better team. I think
he's done exceptionally well, I feel, with not a lot. He's got
only so much he can do.
He's got two very, confident and very competent, there's the word, very competent wide receivers in Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns. And
got Hurns on my team.
Yeah, I mean, I just traded away Robinson, and he did very well yesterday. So that was, some points that I had missed out on, unfortunately. But that's the potential that those guys have. And then, having TJ Yeldon being, an up-and-coming running back, finally, not doing great so far on the rushing aspect, but did catch a touchdown yesterday, which was big for them. But
it was, yeah.
There just wasn't anything that the Jaguars' defense could do to stop Doug Martin, unfortunately.
Yep, Doug Martin running for a total of 3 total touchdowns yesterday, 123 yards on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown, helping Jameis Winston capture his second victory as the starting quarterback.
Finally.
I know, right? On to Philadelphia, the Eagles. Maybe they're actually for real, or maybe they just like to win against really bad teams. They defeat the Saints 39-17.
Yeah.
What
do you think? Is New Orleans season done?
I think New Orleans season is done, but I don't buy Philly's victory. Like that's great if you're a Philly fan. Okay, yay, Chip Kelly hasn't completely failed us yet. But I'm still not completely sold on it because Drew Brees doesn't have anybody to throw to.
They beat a team they should have beaten, I
Exactly.
feel. So, yeah, like you said, it's tough to measure the quality of teams when they win games they should win. It's hard,
Yeah. That's one of those games that, you look at it, if you're an Eagles fan, you're like, well, we should have won this game. Nobody was really terrified that the Saints were going to come in and steal a victory.
The Saints, you never know. I mean,
sometimes they come marching in, but last week it was not there. I see what I did there. Sometimes, though.
It's too early for that.
It is way too early.
Come on.
Another overtime game that took place was the Browns and the Ravens. Another question of if a season is done or not. The Baltimore Ravens, they dropped to 1-4 now. First time they've lost to the Cleveland Browns at home since, I can't remember the year now. Was it 2006?
Beyond me.
2002? It's been a long time.
Before my time.
Yes, before either of our times in relevant radio, as it were.
There we go.
So Cleveland now goes to 2-3. Josh McCown, 2 total touchdowns, threw for 457 yards in a game. Wow.
Josh McCown threw for 457 yards?
Yeah.
That's
the most in Browns history in a game.
Yeah, and I think I saw, too, he has the most through his first 3 starts this year, which in Browns history, which, again, we'll see. We were all, I think you and I will be the first to admit we were like, hey, let Manziel play. Let him play.
Yeah.
But, hey, good for McCown to get, a little bit of a fire inside of him and say, hey, if my job's on the line, I got to step up my game.
Exactly. And
so good for him.
Yeah, if anybody had Josh McCown yesterday in fantasy, he had 35 points.
35
points yesterday.
From a Browns quarterback.
28 came from Blake Bortles as well.
Telling you.
Fun facts.
Passing the torch. Here they come.
Passing the torch. All right. The Bills and the Titans, another game that we're looking for relevance.
Yeah. I got nothing.
14-13 Bills win. Tyrod Taylor rushes for a touchdown. He has got 2 total on the day.
I'm scanning the stat line here, and
not much.
There was nothing there. Yesterday was a great day for kickers. It really was.
It was a great day to be a kicker yesterday. Cardinals and Lions. Cardinals go to 4-1, 42-17 Lions, the only team yet to win a game this season. Dan Orlovsky coming in for the Lions.
Yeah, what do you think of that move? Mid-game or late game to bench Stafford. How do you feel?
Well, if it's a late move like that, it was probably for health reasons because you don't want to continue to keep your starting quarterback in when you're clearly out of a game.
Clearly.
It doesn't make sense to let him stay in there and continue to just get pounded. Yeah. So it was a smart move by Detroit. Yes, it might raise some questions. Yes, I'm sure there'll probably be a few front-page articles in the Detroit newspapers today, but don't worry about it too much.
What was that guy's name?
Dan Orlovsky.
Orlovsky.
Right. He's been their backup quarterback for several years.
Great.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Arizona dropped 28 points in the second quarter.
Yeah, they kind of just pretty much put their foot on the gas and left.
Yeah, it was pretty clean-cut kind of stuff, kind of like what we saw with the Patriots as well, as they went to a 30-6 victory over the Cowboys. Wait, does everybody remember when they said that Brandon Weeden was the answer? No, wait.
Wait, is he the
Only
answer?
Cowboy fans said that because nobody else outside of Dallas.
Come on.
He's not.
The Patriots had 2 weeks to get ready for this game.
So the Cowboys should still have put up a little bit more than 2 field goals.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Tuho late in the game when, obviously the game was won and Dallas was just using garbage minutes and getting garbage yards trying to get in the end zone. And New England was giving them everything underneath, and they still kept them out of the end zone.
That's the best part about it.
Weeden just looked so out of touch in the backfield. It was almost unfortunate to watch him back there.
It really was. Julian Edelman, though, for the Patriots, 4 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. The man...
he is fun to watch.
He is.
He is a lot of fun to watch.
I would love a team with Julian Edelman and Jordy Nelson as my 2 receivers.
A guy who...
And let them just do their work on the outsides.
Well, you got a guy who's a deep threat like, Jordy Nelson, and a guy who just can cut across the middle, got a great set of hands, and is phenomenal after the catch.
Mm-hmm.
After his big score in the second half yesterday, one of the TV analysts or announcers was like, this guy is made of steel. And
Yeah.
I cannot argue with that logic. I mean, when you get the ball in his hands, a lot of great things can happen. He's not afraid to take a hit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Patriots continue to be undefeated. Another team that is undefeated is the Denver Broncos. They go to a 16-10 victory over the Oakland Raiders. Peyton Manning throwing 2 interceptions. It was a pretty atrocious outing from Peyton Manning, but the Broncos defense stepping up, doing a good job yesterday, continuing to keep the Broncos relevant and undefeated. The Broncos had a touchdown. The Broncos defense had a touchdown, an interception, 2 fumble recoveries, and a blocked kick as well. They got 23 points on fantasy if you own them.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled that I own them.
Special shout out to Charles Woodson, former Packer, who prior leading up to this week had said, not cocky and not arrogantly, had just said, in my 18-year career, I have never picked off Peyton Manning, and I think that would just be the coolest thing. I think it was almost kind of a statement that was made in awe of Peyton Manning, just out of respect. And I thankfully didn't hear or see of anybody, getting all up in arms about it, where he's calling Peyton Manning out, he's stepping up or whatever. So, but it was great to see him pick off Manning not once, twice.
What a guy. Charles Woodson, one of the
Still
best
playing
to
well.
ever play the game, honestly, at the defensive position. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he better.
He's gotta. He's absolutely gotta. And then the Sunday night game was the New York Giants and the San Francisco 49ers. It was Giants 30, 49ers 27. Eli Manning throws the ball 54 times for 441 yards and 3 touchdowns. Odell Beckham Jr., 7 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown. 49ers season might pretty much be over, Sam. I don't know what to do with them, though.
After the first game of the year when, what's the running back's name? Carlos Hyde. After Hyde went off in week 1, that was great to see. A lot of people thought they might have really established themselves as having another young running back, but yeah, there's too many glaring holes on defense and just not enough consistency on the offensive end to get things done.
Yep, absolutely. Well, if you're a Packers fan, you're probably sitting at home going, why didn't you talk about the Packers? Well, we have a whole segment dedicated to that, so don't worry. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Welcome back inside the studio as we continue to roll on with a Monday edition of the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Yes, you did hear it, Sam. Sam Wallace is here, who technically does our Running 101 segment, but he's also kind of developed into a secondary co-host as well for the show.
They keep letting me in the studio,
I keep telling security, you got to watch out for the dude with the running shoes, and they're always like, who? But you're just so fast you run by him.
Gone.
Just zoom. I don't know. You got D3 speed, Sam.
D3.
Boom.
Shout out to all the D3 athletes out there.
What up?
Keeping it real.
Got to do it. All right. Well, if you were a fan of the Green Bay Packers yesterday, you know that you probably heard this song more than once yesterday.
Go, Pack, go!
As the Green Bay Packers marched down to a victory by a score of 24-10.
5-0?
5-0. The Green Bay Packers. It was a great day for a Packers team. It was a bad day for a Rams team. However, if you're a Packers fan, you still might be mourning the fact that Aaron Rodgers threw an interception finally.
Get over
at home.
it.
I'm over it. I was one of those people that tweeted out as soon as it happened. I was
saw that.
thank you that it's finally over. I'm glad that, yes, it was a great record.
I'm almost kind of glad he did.
Yeah.
Just so we can stop talking about it.
Exactly.
I mean, even after the game, Aaron Rodgers, I knew somebody was going to ask him about it, and I was really hoping.
As a reporter, you have to.
I know you have to, but come on. And his responses are very good. He's like, yeah, it was a fun streak. Let's start a new one. Just very cut and dry. All right, let's go. We got the win. Let's move on.
Exactly.
Let's get ready for next week.
Yeah, we're on to Cincinnati. No, we're on to Kansas City or whoever the heck it is.
I don't know.
No, they're on to San Diego this coming week. But,
great, cool.
Yeah, right. That'll be a fun game. All right. Anyway, so yeah, I was when it finally happened. You have to commend Laurinaitis for that catch, though.
Oh yeah,
it was a beautiful heads-up play.
Great defensive play.
Both interceptions on Rodgers were just fantastic individual efforts. I mean, the second interception I felt was a little bit of a miscommunication with Rodgers and the receiver.
Yeah.
So that one, I think you can blame him, kind of. And I tweeted out yesterday, too, I left room for error.
You left room? That's good.
I was like, 90% of the interceptions Aaron Rodgers throws are not his fault.
And if you go back, especially for the last 2 or 3 seasons when Rodgers has really been on top of his game, almost all interceptions that he has thrown have been through the receiver's hands, bounced off their chest, tipped at the line, something. It hasn't been just glaring Aaron Rodgers mistake where he just throws it down the field into triple coverage and says, all right, go catch the ball.
And anybody that knows Aaron Rodgers or even knows Brett Favre knows that those guys don't exactly throw the ball very light.
No.
Obviously, Rodgers does not have the same cannon arm that Favre does, but Rodgers still can zip it like the best of them.
Yeah.
So he does make it difficult at times for his receivers to maintain possession of the ball as it comes into their body. That's the word I was looking for.
Maintain possession.
Maintain possession. Yes.
Okay.
Rodgers went 19 of 30 yesterday for 241 yards. He was sacked only twice, so I thought that was a bit of a victory within itself because coming into the game, the Rams' defense was predicted to do exceptionally well against the Packers' offensive line.
Yeah.
Brian Bulaga did come back, but TJ Lang did leave with an injury.
Just the shuffling around.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's great news. You never want to see some of your offensive linemen leave as they're trying to protect, the most important part of your football team and the quarterback. But
seriously,
it's such old hat now for Packer fans that we're like, oh, another offensive lineman, little knee injury, ankle injury, and we don't even really bat an eye over it anymore, which is unfortunate. But thankfully, we're to the point now where we've had enough guys step up, and just Aaron Rodgers' pocket presence and just intelligence when he's on the move almost allows him to have somewhat of a porous offensive line and still be able to make plays.
Yep, absolutely. One thing that did bother me, though, from the game, and maybe it bothered you as well, Sam, is that the leading rusher for the Green Bay Packers yesterday was Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
8 carries, 39 yards. Eddie Lacy, the man that should be leading the stat column, had 13 carries for 27 yards, only averaging 2.1 yards a carry.
I mean, we knew going in, we Packer fans, sorry, I'm not always a big fan of people that say, our team won. I get it, but
yeah.
All right.
The thing that we always try to remind people is that when you're speaking about unless you actually play and or work or had a direct result of how the game ended, do not say because you were not on the field. So
no one cares.
The Packers, as much as you love your team, as much as we love Green Bay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I even catch myself sometimes saying, we had a good game. Well, no, we didn't. I was on my couch yesterday watching the game, and they were there winning the game.
But anyways, I think it's one of those things, too, where I think early on the Packers realized, Lacy only ran the ball 13 times. I think that's not even really quantifiable as saying they tried to establish the running game. They tried. And they realized very quickly that, look, the Rams front 4, the Rams front 7 is very, very good, and we're going to have to find a way to win other than this, which the Packers were able to do. They were able to adjust. They weren't spending the entire game beating a dead horse and trying to say, all right, Lacy, run the ball, and just getting 3-and-out after 3-and-out. So, like we said, it wasn't pretty, but the Packers were able to adjust very early in the game, I felt.
Yes.
And found out what they needed to do to win, and thankfully their defense stepped it up.
Yeah, and I was a little concerned by that. I mean, we saw James Starks in there for a change of pace for a little bit. He got 5 carries for 17 yards. Nothing really that great. John Kuhn got his one token carry of the game, his 1 carry for 3 yards. However, Lacy's numbers have not been fantastic throughout the first 5 games of the year. Yes, he was nursing an injury for a little bit, but still, I'm sure some fantasy owners are probably a little worried. You gotta wonder. And that's exactly why I was saying when people were like, he's going to be the best player in fantasy, I'm like,
yeah, when that first came out, I was
floored.
That was very early preseason before, thankfully they kind of readjusted their rankings and put him at number 3 or something like that. But when the initial fantasy, Eddie Lacy, I know you and I were talking, we're like, Wait,
No.
Who throws the ball in Green Bay?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
You don't, and I did a video for the Sports Quotient as well, back when I was a video analyst for them, about this, and I said, you don't say that the best running back in the league is going to be on the most pass-happy team in the league.
No.
You just don't do it.
That just doesn't happen.
You don't have the MVP quarterback,
No, doesn't happen.
and try to have the best running back. It's just not going to happen. It's just not. I think Lacy's he's only been in the league for, 3 years?
Something like that.
Something like that. There's a lot more for Eddie Lacy to work out with. However, someone that does not look like a rookie is the receiver, Ty Montgomery.
Gosh, man.
What a great game yesterday.
What a great game. What a great catch. Just good field awareness to put himself kind of right in the middle where, he just found the hole in the defense.
Yeah.
And like Rodgers does, he finds guys that are open.
Mm-hmm. 4 catches, 59 yards. He had a 31-yard touchdown strike to get the game going. He averaged 14.8 yards a catch yesterday on 5 targets. I wonder how many people are going to be submitting waiver claims for Ty Montgomery this coming week.
Who needs wide receivers now? I mean, we're kind of starting to get into that midpoint of the season where
Devontae Adams is still out.
Still out, and you know what? That's not a bad thing for Montgomery. That's really allowed him to open up.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that this isn't the same story going. I'm already jumping ahead to next year, but we saw this last year with Devontae Adams when Randall Cobb was battling injuries last year. And then Devontae Adams was playing fairly well, and people were jumping on the Devontae Adams train. But I just feel like Ty wants it more.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be more of a physical presence on the field, and they've already utilized him in some pistol formations, some wildcat formations.
Yeah.
They've put him in the backfield and things like that, similar to what they've done with Randall Cobb.
Yes.
And yeah, you can feel that drive that he has. That just seems a little bit better than Devontae Adams.
And there was a play yesterday where Montgomery caught a pass on the far right side of the field, and he stepped out at the 16-yard line, but he kept running and broke a few tackles and got to the end zone. And the camera panned to Rodgers, and he's just smiling, laughing, talking to one of the offensive linemen, just like, "Are you kidding? Like,
Come
this
on,
rookie." And that's a huge part because, as we've heard in the past, if you're a Packers fan, if Aaron Rodgers trusts you as his wide receiver, you're going to get the ball.
Yep.
He will make it his goal to get you the ball during the game.
Yep, and we've seen it too. And if you don't have Aaron Rodgers' trust, you might as well not even be out on the field. So it's good to see, but.
It is. Now, talk a little bit about, Sam, about how the defense looked yesterday. I think Seattle from the Super Bowl year and Green Bay's defense switched yesterday because I was a little confused on what defense I was watching.
I mean, to watch Seattle give up 17 fourth-quarter points to, albeit a very good now playing Andy Dalton, but again, Packers, 4 interceptions, 3 sacks, blocked field goal, one of those interceptions returned for a touchdown. Again, just consistent pressure up front.
A
Yeah.
lot of good heads-up play, too, honestly.
Yeah, and I know Todd Gurley did manage. I shouldn't say did manage. He went off again. He went off for the second week in a row.
Yeah.
That was cool to see. I mean, just from a purely football standpoint, to watch a rookie now kind of start to come into his own.
Yes.
He had his way on the ground with the Packers defense. But again, apart from that, like you said, they made a lot of very good heads-up plays, and I'm buying their defense. Dom Capers has really been stepping up, which is nice to see finally.
Exactly, and it was nice to see the rookie Quentin Rollins get 2 interceptions yesterday. Micah Hyde added 1, and then Clinton Dix with a terrific keeping his head up and being able to cradle the ball in for that heads-up play in the end zone. So, I want to talk about special teams briefly, but there's not much to say. Tim Mastay, I think, needs to give up punting. I've never been a huge fan of Tim Mastay.
They need to find somebody
else. Didn't play very well yesterday at all. Mason Crosby played fairly well, a little bit that we saw him on the field, but
I guess the one thing I will say in regards, this is just, again, I don't really want to be talking about it because it's unfortunate, but the Packers looked very, very beatable yesterday.
Yes.
The Rams missed 3 field goals, so there's 9 points, and they threw 2 interceptions inside the Packers' 10-yard line.
Yeah.
You make all 3 of those field goals, and you turn one of those touchdowns and one of those interceptions into a touchdown. Totally different ball game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think, again, not that we want to have to start relying heavily on our defense to win us games, but it was good to see them step up when Aaron Rodgers had a very pedestrian day as far as he's concerned.
Yes, no, you're absolutely correct about that. You look at that about just about any other team, you'd say, wow, they had an average day. But for Aaron Rodgers, that was a very poor performance. I mean, yes, we said one of the interceptions was not his fault, but the other one certainly was. So if you're a Packers fan, you're thrilled. Your team is 5-0. If you are a Rams fan, you go to 2-3.
But I think you got to like your chances yet.
You do.
You have to.
I was very happy with the Rams' defense performance yesterday. The fact that they were able to go up against an elite offense and cause a lot of issues.
Yeah,
I think is comparable. Absolutely comparable. All right, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, are you buying or selling the undefeated teams in the NFL? We'll tell you who we think is buyable and who is sellable. We'll be right back. This is the Baxton Grand Sports Show. Welcome back to the Baxter Grand Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
All right, Sam, as you are filling in for Grant today, we want to take a quick moment to remind people they can get us right here live from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Spreaker.com and Periscope. You can also get us on Sports Radio America from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time on Live 365 and tune in and on demand anytime you want on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and on Spreaker.com. I'm at Baxter Colburn. Sam is...
Samuel_Wallace 2.
The underscore Wallace always throws me off. I never know what to do.
Too.
You and David Kenyon both got the underscores. It's like, just have a normal Twitter. Come on.
Well, you know...
what's the underscore do? It's you have to go to a separate menu when you're tweeting at that person to get the underscore. Then you have to come back and...
You mean it just doesn't come up automatically?
Sometimes it doesn't.
What? It's not my fault.
I'm just telling you. You're causing a havoc for the rest of us that want to tweet at you.
Well, I would much rather just have, like, my name, like yours is at Baxter Colburn.
Yeah.
Well, apparently your name is a little more unique than mine because at Sam Wallace or at Samuel Wallace is not available.
Just be like S. Wallace or Wallace Knows Best or Sam Walla
S.
Walla
Wallace
or something.
doesn't... No. No. Keeping it short and sweet, and you know what? You can deal with the underscore.
I'll get over it. All right, Sam. Time to buy or sell the undefeated teams in the NFL. Starting in the AFC... The New England Patriots are 4-0, 2-0 on the road, 2-0 on home. Buying.
Is anybody not going to buy?
I would buy them, yes.
Good.
Okay. All right, easy enough.
Next.
Moving on, the Cincinnati Bengals, 5-0.
Buying.
Why?
Buying. I know we touched on earlier in the show, but watching Cincinnati be down by 17 points to a top-tier defense in the NFL and rattle off the needed points in order to win, again, I think just shows dramatic leadership on Andy Dalton's part.
I'd agree with you.
They were totally unfazed and, again, did not blink.
The power of the ginger. We'll see what he can do.
Still bitter about the TCU game, but we'll get over it.
Oh, too funny. All right, and the last team in the AFC, the Denver Broncos are 5-0.
I'm going to sell.
Yeah, I'm going to sell too because Denver, with Peyton Manning playing like he should be in the retirement league, he does not deserve. The team does not deserve to be 5-0. The only reason they're 5-0 is they have the case of the Seattle Seahawks with the good defense.
Yeah.
I don't want to compare Russell Wilson to Peyton Manning, but I feel like that's kind of how it is, where Peyton Manning and/or Russell Wilson can play but their defense bails them out, and that's pretty much what Denver's doing right now.
When Peyton throws 2 interceptions and your team only scores 16 points, most of which came on a defensive touchdown, I'm selling. Again, 5-0, but we'll see.
Yeah. How about...
Go, Pack, go!
The Green Bay Packers, they're 5-0.
You know, I'm buying.
They're looking good.
I'm buying with the reservation of yesterday's game. They really need to step it up. I know we just talked about that, but again,
Go ahead.
I was going
to say, if I was a betting man, I would not bet the house on the Packers. I would bet a majority of my money, but I would not bet the house because the performances against Kansas City, the performances against San Francisco, and then yesterday as well worry me.
Yeah.
Just enough to the point that I would not be like, I'm all in. This team is definitely the best.
They did not trounce the Rams like I was hoping they would. Not that I expected them to, but again, the Rams defense really stepped up on the road. So that was a good game for the Rams.
Absolutely. All right, down to the NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons. How do you feel about the Falcons?
I'm going to, with some reservations, say I'm buying again.
Really? Okay.
We'll see if Julio Jones' injury is as serious as people say. I think if he's fine, Atlanta will be fine. If Devontae Freeman can continue doing what he's doing, they'll be fine. But again, Matt Ryan, similar to Peyton Manning, did not throw a touchdown yesterday. So I'm buying for now, but I think we'll see.
Okay, I am selling the Falcons. They proved up to this point that they were a fairly good team, but you can't go to overtime with the Washington Redskins and expect to be a clear buy in my book. Honestly,
I agree.
To be a full buy, I need a full process of how good they are, and I just was not buying it. And Matt Ryan has been trying to work himself into the top 5 as a quarterback. And not throwing a touchdown against the Redskins, it's one of those things where it has to happen. Even one, I would have thought about it a little bit more, but the fact that he didn't throw a touchdown yesterday against a Washington team that doesn't even know, number one, what their name is supposed to be, number two, just what they do as a team as a whole, no, I'm selling the Falcons. Last team, Carolina Panthers, they're 4-0. They had a bye week this last week. Cam Newton and company looking good, but... I don't know.
I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell for the reason that I feel like they've beaten the teams, again, they should have beaten. Which, we talked about the Arizona Cardinals is destroying Detroit yesterday. Yeah, it was great, but again, beating the teams they should beat, I'm going to sell in Carolina.
Yep, I'd have to agree with you on that one. Selling the Panthers, as we've mentioned on this show multiple times, the Panthers have beaten the teams they're supposed to. So when Atlanta and Carolina finally square off against each other, I'll be curious to see who actually comes out. But I made it from the standpoint that if Carolina beats Atlanta, that looks better for Carolina. If Atlanta beats Carolina, that looks not that great for Atlanta because Atlanta is supposed to beat Carolina.
Exactly.
Carolina is traditionally not supposed to beat Atlanta.
Unfortunately, all about that perception of who should you beat and who should be better.
Yep.
But to have to rely on your defense for a pick six in overtime, like you said, I'm still buying Atlanta, but with the reservation that they really need to step up and show me that they deserve to be undefeated at this point.
And the hard part about it, too, is that Carolina and Atlanta don't play each other until week 14 and week 16.
Wow.
So we have to wait until December 13th and December 27th before we finally get a look at these two teams.
Didn't realize it was that late. But yeah,
I didn't realize it either.
A lot could happen.
Yeah, but even look at Atlanta's next few games. The Saints, the Titans, the Buccaneers, the 49ers, the Colts, the Vikings, the Bucks, then the Panthers. Then they play the Jaguars, then the Panthers.
This is Atlanta's schedule, you're saying?
This is Atlanta's schedule, yes. Atlanta has the easiest schedule.
They really, again, too early to make predictions, but they could really, really do some damage in their own division.
Yeah, the only teams I would have traditionally said would have been causing problems would have been the Colts, maybe the Vikings, but the Vikings are still trying to figure out if Teddy's going to play well or not this year. Aside from that, that's it. I mean, you have the Jaguars on your team. You play the Buccaneers twice. The 49ers don't know which way is up.
There's another win.
The Saints, depends on if Drew Brees. Even then,
I almost feel bad for Drew Brees because there's only so much room on his back for the team.
Yeah,
I mean, so he can literally carry the city of New Orleans around as much as he is able, but at the end of the day, he can't be the only guy doing the job.
Exactly. All right. Well, let us know if you think that we bought or sold the wrong teams. We'd love to hear your opinion. You can tweet at us at Baxter Colburn, at BG Sports Show, at Grants Rant BGSS, and at
Samuel_Wallace 2.
Absolutely. We'll be right back. Connor Christensen is in the studio with English and words and stuff to talk about his fitness tip for the week.
Languages.
I'm going to do some facial exercises. I'll be right back. This is the Baxter Grant Sports Show. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. Grant's off for the day. Sam Wallace is filling in the co-host chair, as he does so well for us. We hear him on Fridays, traditionally on the Bax and Grant Sports Show, talking about his running 101 tips, and we also get his fantasy insights on the Bax and Grant Sports Show Fantasy Football League as well. But it is Monday, though, which means we get to bring in Connor Christensen. So good morning, Connor. How are you doing?
Oh, better now that I actually get to hear the intro music.
Right? So
it's been so long since I've
Connor,
heard the intro music.
Connor has not been in studio for such a long time.
Yeah, months now.
It's been eons, decades, years, fortnights.
Centuries.
Exactly. Well, Connor, you must be happy because your Vikings didn't lose this weekend.
That's true.
They also didn't play.
They were on bye week, so yes, that's fine. But that's okay.
Was that like a national holiday in Minnesota? We're
actually,
we didn't lose.
Actually, no. Everybody was just like, I just want to watch the Vikings play football.
Do you guys know? You know
Kansas City.
You?
Next week.
We
got it. We got it. I'm not worried about
Come on.
Not worried about it.
You're just fine. Your fantasy game is not going that great this week, though.
I've given up on it.
You're losing to David Kenyon.
We don't need to talk about that. If you really
you're fine. We'll just. Team's not looking the greatest this year, Connor. It's a rebuilding year for you. Houston Oilers have had their time, but might be time to be done.
Next season.
Yes. Well, I'm under the impression, Connor, that you have quite the lengthy thing to speak about today.
Yes.
So I don't know if I need to step back and let you go because you've got quite a few things to spew at us.
I have my own rant today.
You do. Well, I'm going to give you 5 minutes for your rant. That way, I don't. That way you don't just start spewing.
Let's see if I can do it in 5 minutes.
All right.
I'm honestly not sure. I've been
Have you been practicing in front of the mirror?
No, I haven't been practicing in front of the mirror, but I've been talking about it a lot. So.
Okay. Well, I will. Unfortunately, all I can give you is about 5 to maybe 7 if you're lucky.
All right.
Here we go. All right, ready? And the floor is yours, sir.
All right. So the other day, I was watching a video. So I like gym memes on Facebook. It's a lot of bodybuilding memes. They're very funny sometimes when it comes to stereotypes that happen in weight rooms, and that stuff is funny to me because I like to spend my time in weight rooms.
Truth.
And but for some reason, these bodybuilders have just an absolute. I don't know why they're so fascinated with CrossFit, but they seem to have a huge fascination for CrossFit. Every other post is bashing CrossFit in some way. And, don't get me wrong, I don't really do CrossFit. That's not something that I would do because it's not exactly the type of exercises that I like to do. I like to go and I like to weightlift like a bodybuilder would. I like to punch my punching bag, doing boxing workouts. I like UFC fighting and all that. So I am actually leaning more towards a bodybuilding style of working out. But they're belittling people on these gym memes for doing CrossFit. And I have to tell you right now, as someone who's studied exercise and someone who has done a wide range of exercises, that the legitimate CrossFit trainers that train you properly are some of the best trainers out there. Mm-hmm. They know their stuff. They can teach you how to do exercises in such a way that makes the average everyday person a higher level athlete. And that's the point of CrossFit, is they're trying to make people more athletic almost. CrossFit is wonderful exercise. It's great for your cardiovascular system. It's great for your respiratory systems. And even though Gym Memes doesn't agree with it, it is good for your muscular system. It makes you stronger. It makes you bigger. It makes you faster. And there's nothing wrong with doing CrossFit. But I was watching this video, bodybuilding.com, or not bodybuilding.com, different
Just a bodybuilder.
Just a bodybuilder. He comes on and he makes this video. And this video is he is sitting in his car, and he starts off talking, and then he kind of starts spitting and yelling at the camera. I don't know if that was funny or something, but whatever. And
getting too worked up.
And he was like, yeah, the difference between CrossFit and bodybuilding. If you want to go out and flip a tire, because you never know when you're going to have to flip a tire in your everyday life, or if you want to be really good at doing handstand push-ups, because you never know when you're going to have to go up to a wall and do some handstand push-ups.
How I had to,
go do CrossFit. But if you want to be able to lift the 100-pound dumbbells, or you want to, he starts going off and spitting at the camera, and, the first thing that pops into my head is, so am I just going to find dumbbells lying around in my everyday life that I'm just going to have to start curling because that's life?
That's life.
So, I challenge this bodybuilder. You talk about which, in my mind, I'm thinking which exercise is going to make you actually better at handling everyday situations. And unfortunately for this bodybuilder, that is flipping tires.
Of course.
That is working different muscle groups. That's changing up how you work different muscle groups so that they are never doing the same thing, because your body does not like to do the same thing. It figures it out. You stop progressing. So you need to keep changing it up. Even with a sport like running, you never go out and run 4 miles and then that's it. At the same speed, you would never do that. Same distance, same speed? No. There are so many different types of running, training, exercises, and I'm sure Sam could talk for days about it.
Truth.
But with weightlifting, CrossFit, all of these things, you have to change it up. And my biggest issue with this video that was put out there was that it was belittling someone for doing an exercise that they like to do.
What's wrong? There's nothing wrong with that.
No. And as myself, I want to be an athletic trainer. I want to be a personal trainer. I want to work with people on how to do exercises that they love to do. Working with someone to find an exercise that they love to do, that is an awesome moment for a trainer. Like you love to play soccer.
Oh, heck
and
yeah.
So go out and play soccer, man. That's awesome.
Woo!
Go do that. And me, I like to weightlift, so I'm going to go weightlift. That's what I like to do. If someone likes to go do CrossFit, then they should be able to go do CrossFit without the fear of being belittled by bodybuilders or serious weightlifters or anybody, because who out there can say one form of exercise is the best? No one can say that.
No, there's no one proven thing that's, this is so great.
Yeah, exactly. So I was watching this video and I got so upset at these bodybuilders because I'm like, you are the people in the gym that are intimidating everybody out of the gym, that are keeping people from working to build the strongest version of themselves. I got that quote from Elliot Hulse on YouTube. Check him out. He's awesome. You need to build the strongest version of yourself because that's how you get healthy. That is how you make it so that you can go throughout your average everyday life in the most positive way possible. But to those bodybuilders, I do know some bodybuilders.
Yes.
Actually, I have a friend of mine from high school who is getting into bodybuilding, and he's an awesome guy. And so I know that he does not fall into the stereotype. But so often we see these serious weightlifters that the jarheads. I lift things up and put them down type of people. And I can't.
With that.
And I can't stand the belittlement. There should never be any form of judgment in the weight room, in the gym, no matter what sport you're playing. There's never judgment. You're just trying to build the strongest version of yourself. Mm-hmm. So that is my rant for the day.
Wow.
I went a little over 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
It's okay,
but
it's totally fine. Well, I appreciate you sharing, though. That's it's one of those things that I've come under some personal criticism because I don't have the biggest upper body, but I work out playing soccer. I work out playing football a lot because that's the type of workout that I enjoy doing.
Yes.
I've learned throughout the last 8 to 10 years that I've actually worked out that I don't enjoy going to a gym and picking things up and putting them down. It's just doesn't appeal to me. I could be in there by myself. I could be in there with 10 friends egging me on, like, yeah, go, but the drive is not there for me, and everyone's got their own way of doing it, honestly. I would rather do Insanity, P90X, go play soccer, things like that where I feel like I'm using my full body and not just lifting things that are heavy and putting them down.
And that's awesome. Continue to do that, my friend.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. Well, Connor, we appreciate you stopping by the show today, sir. And fantasy didn't go that well this week.
No,
Vikings didn't play.
No. So I've basically got nothing else to talk about. So.
Yeah, I got nothing else for you. Still regretting that trade that I offered you at the beginning of the year?
Oh, why do you got to keep bringing that up, man? Why do you got to keep bringing that up?
I don't know. It's okay. Anyway, well, Connor, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. We'll speak with you again later on in the week for your Fight Corner. And good luck with the rest of your week, bud.
Thanks, you too.
We'll be right back. This is the Baxton Grant Sports Show. Welcome back to the Baxton Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm back. Sam Wallace was here this morning, but he now has got to go run off to class. Going to be a good old college student, as it were, but good for him, and thanks for him for stepping into the studio as well today. His insights into the NFL world were very much needed and very useful as well. So thanks, Sam, for stepping in and being our sub for the day. So before we go, I wanted to make a quick mention of the USA versus Mexico game that took place on Saturday night, the CONCACAF Cup, as they called it. It was the battle between USA and Mexico to see which team would win the bid to go to the Confederations Cup in 2017. For those of you that do not know what the CONCACAF Cup or the Confederations Cup or the World Cup or any sort of Sippy Cup or anything cup that is, the soccer world loves their cups. Unfortunately, they don't always make the trophies look like cups, but that's an entirely different conversation. Anyway, the game was played to determine which would go to the Confederations Cup. And what the Confederations Cup is a small version of the World Cup in the host nation. So Russia hosts the 2018 World Cup. In 2017, the Confederations Cup will take place in Russia as well. And basically, it is a smaller version of the World Cup. I think only 8 or 10 teams go. It's a dry run, basically, for the World Cup to see how the stadiums are going to do, how the city's going to do with the games going on, and also give national team managers an opportunity to see which players are going to help them possibly win a World Cup the next year. So the USA and Mexico had each won one of the CONCACAF Gold Cups. The USA won it 2 years ago, and then Mexico won it this last year. So the two teams were pitted against each other to square off and see who could take the victory. The game was held out in Pasadena, California. It was a beautiful venue, the sold-out Rose Bowl. And let's just say the game did not disappoint as well. Mexico would ultimately end up winning the game 3-2, but the game would get started with Javier Hernandez scoring in the 10th minute. Jeff Cameron would add a goal for the U.S. in the 15th minute. And the game the regular time would end with a score at 1-1. In overtime, or extra time as they call it, Obari Peralta would score in the 96th minute. And when it all looked like all hope was lost, Bobby Wood came in and scored in the 108th minute. And then a shootout looked very, very possible, very imminent. And then in the 118th minute, on a beautiful one-touch volley to the far post, Paul Aguilar, with just one of the best goals I've seen in a long time, scored to the far post, which allowed Mexico to win by a score of 3-2. Now, there's a few different things that should be mentioned about this game. One of them was the lack of starting lineup, the lack of speed and talent that was placed on the field for the United States men's national team. The midfield especially caused a lot of problems for the United States, with Jermaine Jones and Kyle Beckerman starting. Jermaine Jones played on the right side, Kyle Beckerman played in the middle, Michael Bradley and Jossie Zardes also played as well on the left and center also. It was a little interesting of a lineup because Kyle Beckerman and Jermaine Jones are very much holding defensive midfielders. I know Jermaine Jones likes to go rogue and run up the field at times, but that is something that he needs a different guy behind him to do that. Jermaine Jones, we saw him during the World Cup, played on the right midfield. We saw him play defensive mid a little bit, so there was a little confusion on that. Clint Dempsey and Josie Altidore both played in the game as well, up at the forward positions. Clint Dempsey played, I don't even remember Clint Dempsey playing because he didn't do anything. He had one total shot, apparently. He was offsides once as well. But Clint Dempsey was virtually non-existent in the game, and fans were thoroughly upset after the game with, number one, his lack of effort and the fact that he didn't really show that he cared about the game at all, but also the fact that Bobby Wood, who came on only with 22 minutes left to go in the game, including overtime, just looked fantastic when he was on the field. So the fact that Bobby Wood came into the game so late, a few fans were rather upset about that and really wished that he would have put in a better performance. And for the USA, they were not thrilled by the offensive production that they got. Looking at it from a statistical standpoint, the USA was outshot by Mexico 23-14. 7 shots on target for Mexico, 4 from the USA. It was one of those games where Mexico dominated possession. They kept 63.4% of the possession. That's the word I was looking for. Passing accuracy, Mexico completed 91% of their passes. They had a total of 756 passes in the game. To put it into perspective, the USA completed 83% of their passes and only had a total of 443 total passes in the game. So it was a game that was thoroughly dominated by Mexico, and you had a feeling if you were listening and watching to the game that this was going to be a game that the USA really had no chance to win. And that's really what it came down to. The U.S. did not play well. They did not play well from the start to finish. Sure, there were several moments of brilliance, if you are the U.S., with Bobby Wood's goal and even Jeff Cameron's goal off a set piece from Michael Bradley. But as I mentioned to some of my friends that we were watching the game with, that the U.S. has traditionally been a great set piece team. The women's team, the men's team, the U.S. as a whole has always been very, very good at what they do when it comes to set pieces. We know that the U.S. women's team in the World Cup did a great job of converting off of set pieces. We've seen Michael Bradley serve in so many great passes in the World Cup, in international play, even when he plays in Major League Soccer for Toronto FC. So the fact that there was a goal scored off of a set piece did not surprise me one bit, because the U.S. has the height advantage over the Mexican national team. Mexico, traditionally, just not a very tall team. That's nothing against them. That's just part of their culture, part of their genes. They're not a very tall society, unfortunately. The USA, Jeff Cameron comes in at over 6 feet tall. He was able to get up tall, win that header, pounded it into the near post. Beautiful goal. Now, the one thing that people continue to speak about after this game is the timetable for Jurgen Klinsmann, the manager for the United States men's national team. Jurgen Klinsmann, coming into this game, had already been facing a little bit of controversy in terms of whether or not he should still be coaching the team. He's been with the team for 4 years. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it has been. And it's one of those things that really you just don't know, because he preached consistency. He preached that the best players will play, and every other soccer analyst, every other person that knows and has a great understanding of the soccer world is just boggled by what Jurgen Klinsmann does on a game-by-game basis. Jurgen Klinsmann has never put out the same starting 11 in his entire time as the manager for the United States. Never. And that's something that has continued to kill the United States men's national team. The biggest issue with it is the back four, the four guys that play back on defense. This last game, there was DeMarcus Beasley, Fabian Johnson, Jeff Cameron, and Matt Beasler. The subs were DeAndre Yedlin, Jonathan Spector, Michael Orzorko, Tim Ream, and Venturo Alvarado. None of those players, aside from DeMarcus Beasley and Fabian Johnson, are consistent fixtures on the starting 11. But Fabian Johnson has even played midfield at more times than not. DeAndre Yedlin has come in and played midfield at multiple times. We've seen him even on the right back, left back. He goes all over the place. The lack of consistency is what's killing the men's national team. Not necessarily with their play, that does get affected, but by the players on the field. The only way to really be consistent and win in a soccer game not only is to have talent, but is to have chemistry with the players on the field. And the USA does not have that right now. They have never had solid chemistry with all of their players while Jurgen Klinsmann has been in charge. They struggle with consistency, they struggle with chemistry, they struggle with finishing, but a lot of that happens around the fact that the midfield and forward players are not used to playing with each other, because so much of what they do is shifting around and like, well, let's see if this works. And I get it. As a manager, you need to tinker a little bit. You need to figure out, okay, who are my best players? And that's fine. You're going to have those games like that. But if you're Jurgen Klinsmann and you continue to tinker and tinker and tinker, your team is never going to be good. You're never going to win a World Cup. You're never going to get past the knockout round. You're never going to make a name for yourself. And that's going to continue to stunt the growth of soccer in the United States. Right now, more people care about how the women's national team did than the men's team did. And that's not a dig on the women's national team at all. They are a fantastic group of ladies that deserve the World Cup that they won. However, in a soccer society that is dominated by men's soccer, the U.S. that is dominated in every other single sport in the world, basically, internationally, when you talk about basketball, you talk about all the other sports, the NFL, hockey, the USA is the main pinnacle of all of those things. But then you look at soccer, and the U.S. can barely get their foot in the door because there's a lack of consistency, the right players being called up, the arguments of the talent pool is not that great. There's enough talent that the U.S. can be consistently good. They're not a World Cup winning team, but they're still a very good team. And some of that, I think, does circle around the lack of inconsistency in the lineups from Jurgen Klinsmann. So now that Jurgen Klinsmann lost the CONCACAF Cup, I'm curious to see if he does stick around for the 2018 World Cup by the fact that U.S. management kicks him out. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe there will be a new U.S. men's national team coach sooner rather than later. I don't know. It's hard to tell. As much as Jurgen Klinsmann, he's done some good things for the U.S. men's national team and for the growth of U.S. soccer as a whole. it's so difficult to really know whether or not he's actually going to be something that the U.S. needs going forward. So let us know your thoughts. You can tweet at us at BG Sports Show. I'm at Baxter Colburn at Grants Rant BGSS. You can find us on social media on Facebook at the Baxter and Grant Sports Show. Instagram, we are at BG Sports Show. You can get us Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope as well. Thanks to all of you that watched us on Periscope this morning. You can also get us on Sports Radio America from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time on Live 365 and TuneIn and SportsRadioAmerica.com. And on demand anytime you want on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com as well. Tomorrow, Grant will be back in the studio. We'll be talking with Grant about his rant. We'll also hear from David Kenyon and get some insight on the fantasy football world as well. So you're not going to want to miss it. That is tomorrow on the Baxter and Grant Sports Show. Special thanks to Sam Wallace for co-hosting today and for Connor Christensen for his fitness tip rant as well. If you want to go back and listen to all of it, like I said, get us on demand, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker. For Grant Coppersmith and Sam Wallace, I'm Baxter Colburn. Enjoy your Monday. It's only Monday, folks. Smile. You'll be fine. Monday Night Football's on tonight. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one.